For years, NCIS made danger look controlled, loyalty feel unbreakable, and its cast seem like a real family. But 23 years later, the real-life stories behind those familiar faces are more shocking than any case file ever shown on screen. Pauley Perrette was once beloved as Abby, only to walk away from Hollywood completely, leaving fans wondering what really broke behind that bright smile. And Michael Weatherly, once loved for Tony's effortless charm, later watched that golden boy image crack under a headline-making harassment controversy. So what happened after the cameras stopped rolling? After 23 years, where are they now? Let's look back at the cast of NCIS, then and now. Number 1. Pauley Perrette. Pauley Perrette was once one of the sweetest yet strangest faces on NCIS. As Abby Sciuto, she was nothing like the kind of female character audiences usually saw on American crime television at the time. Abby wore gothic clothes, a choker around her neck, and worked inside a cold forensic lab. Yet she had a bright smile, childlike energy, and a heart so warm that viewers almost forgot she was surrounded by death cases. For many fans, Abby was not just a forensic specialist. She was the softer soul of the entire series, the person who made NCIS feel less stiff, less cold, and more like a real family. But precisely because Abby was once so bright, Pauley Perrette's real-life story became even more shocking. After 15 seasons on the show, she left NCIS in 2018. At first, many people assumed it was just a normal farewell after spending so many years living with one role. But then everything quickly changed when Pauley publicly referred to what she called multiple physical assaults, said there was a machine keeping her silent, and made it clear that she would never return to NCIS. Things became even heavier when Pauley directly mentioned Mark Harmon, her longtime co-star, and said she was still afraid of him. For viewers who once saw Gibbs and Abby as members of the same on-screen family, that almost completely shattered the beautiful illusion NCIS had created. CBS later said it had listened to Pauley's workplace concerns and had worked with her to address the issue. But no matter how the story is viewed, the behind-the-scenes image of NCIS no longer felt as clean as fans once imagined. On screen, they were a team of investigators who trusted each other, protected each other, and felt almost like a family. But in real life, Pauley's departure left behind a crack that made people realize something uncomfortable. What audiences see is sometimes only the part lit beautifully for the camera. Behind the scenes, there can be tension, fear, and conflict that the public never gets to see in full. Her story also touched on a much larger issue in Hollywood. When a woman says she no longer feels safe, the conversation can easily turn into a battle between fandom, fame, and the image of a powerful male star, instead of being seen as something much more basic, whether a person is being respected in their own workplace. After NCIS, Pauley did try to return to television with the sitcom Broke, but it was not a long-lasting comeback. Today, at 57, she has almost completely stepped away from acting. The image of Abby running around the lab with that bright electric energy is gone. Pauley has chosen a quieter, more private life, far removed from the machinery of Hollywood. She is no longer trying to hold on to the spotlight just because audiences still remember Abby. Instead, she walked away from the place that once turned her into an icon, as if she understood something very clearly. Some roles can make a person famous, but they can also trap them inside a version of themselves they no longer want to live in. Pauley Perrette did not disappear because the audience turned its back on her. In fact, Abby remains one of the most remembered images in NCIS. What makes her story so haunting is that she left while fans still loved her, while the role still had enough life to follow her for many more years. But instead of clinging to that glow, Pauley chose to cut ties with Hollywood. The woman who once made the NCIS lab light up with Abby's smile eventually no longer wanted to stand under the same spotlight that had made her famous. And maybe that is the part fans can't forget. Abby stays on screen, young, cheerful, and almost unchanged, while Paulie in real life has moved into a life that feels far away, deeply private, and very different from the image millions of people once loved. Number 2. Mark Harmon. Mark Harmon was the kind of star who did not have to do much to command the frame. As Gibbs, he was not loud, he did not try to look dangerous, and he did not need long speeches to prove his authority. Just one look, one silence, one slight tilt of the head was enough to make the entire team stop. For nearly 2 decades, NCIS was almost built around that quiet wait. Gibbs was not just the man leading the investigations. He was the sense of safety at the center of the series, the reason viewers believed that no matter how chaotic things became, there was always someone standing in the middle, keeping everything from falling apart. But in real life, that image became more complicated once behind-the-scenes tension started being discussed. The biggest shadow around him came from the story involving Paulie Perrette, his former co-star, who was beloved by audiences as Abby. After Paulie left NCIS, she publicly said she was afraid of Harmon and spoke about behind-the-scenes issues that made fans unable to look at Gibbs and Abby's relationship as innocently as before. Some media reports also mentioned an incident in which Harmon's dog bit a crew member, along with alleged tensions that reportedly led to the 2 actors no longer filming together the way they once had. CBS later said it had listened to Paulie's workplace concerns and worked to address the matter. Harmon, true to the public image people had long associated with him, rarely stepped forward to explain much. That silence is exactly what made Mark Harmon's story so divisive. For some viewers, he is still the man who carried NCIS through hundreds of episodes, a star so steady he nearly became the foundation of the entire franchise. But for others, that same silence raises questions about the way Hollywood often protects the faces that are too important to a series. When a male actor becomes the center of a major television machine, his image is no longer just personal. It becomes an asset for the network, for the franchise, and for the millions of viewers who have placed their trust in that character. And because of that, the cracks behind the scenes are often never fully told. Today, at 74, Mark Harmon is no longer Gibbs showing up on screen every week. He stepped away from the lead role in 2021, leaving behind a space NCIS could never completely fill. But he did not disappear entirely. Harmon remains connected to that world through NCIS Origins, serving as both narrator and executive producer. In other words, he has left the center of the screen, but he is still somewhere behind it, holding on to a thread that ties him to the legacy he helped create. And maybe the most striking thing is that Mark Harmon no longer needs to appear often for people to still feel his presence, like a quiet king who has stepped down from the throne, but never truly left his kingdom. Number 3. Michael Weatherly. What happens when an actor once loved for being charming, funny, and almost harmless ends up haunted by that very image? Michael Weatherly entered NCIS as Tony Dinozzo, bringing a very different kind of energy into a tense investigative team. Tony talked a lot, laughed a lot, teased his coworkers, loved movies, and always seemed like he was turning every dangerous situation into a private joke of his own. But that easygoing quality was exactly what made audiences remember him. Tony was not the most serious man in the room, and he was not the toughest either. But he had the appeal of a television golden boy. Likeable, confident, a little cocky, and warm enough to be more than just comic relief. For years, Michael Weatherly was almost protected by the charm Tony Dinozzo had created. To NCIS fans, he was the face of wit, charisma, and a slightly reckless confidence, especially through his push-and-pull relationship with Ziva. So when he left NCIS and moved on to Bull, many people saw it as a natural next step. Tony had grown up, Michael had his own show, and the old glow was still strong enough to carry him into a new chapter. But then, on the set of Bull, that image of the funny, likable man began to crack in a way that was hard to ignore. Eliza Dushku, who had been brought on to Bull with the possibility of becoming a series regular, later accused Weatherly of making inappropriate comments and behaving inappropriately on set, What made the situation even heavier was Dushku's claim that after she spoke up about what made her uncomfortable, her character was written out of the series. CBS later paid Dushku a $9.5 million settlement, a figure major outlets reported was tied to what she could have earned if she had stayed on the show for multiple seasons. Weatherly publicly apologized, saying his jokes were not funny, were not appropriate, and had hurt her. But that apology could not erase the uneasy feeling the incident left behind. A woman entered a major series, spoke up about her work environment, and left the show, while the male lead remained at the center. After that, Weatherly kept working. He still had fans, still had a career, and years later, he even returned to the NCIS universe through Tony and Ziva. But that return no longer feels like a simple nostalgia-driven comeback. It carries both the memory of the Tony fans once loved and the shadow of a controversy that made Michael's image feel less untouched than before. Today, at 57, Michael Weatherly is no longer the young, carefree Tony from the early days. His face has aged, his energy feels more subdued, and his fame is far more complicated. He still has charm, and he still matters to longtime fans, but that glow now comes with a moral question modern audiences cannot easily ignore. Tony Dinozzo remains a fun memory on screen, while Michael Weatherly in real life stands as a reminder that sometimes the people who once made audiences laugh the most can leave behind the most uncomfortable questions. Number 4. Cote de Pablo. Cote de Pablo joined NCIS at a far from easy moment. Audiences still remembered Kate Todd, still felt shocked by the sudden death of a familiar character, and anyone who came in afterward risked being seen as the replacement. But Cote did not try to become another version of Kate. She brought Ziva David in with a completely different energy, colder, more mysterious, more dangerous, yet underneath that toughness, there was a very clear loneliness. Ziva was not strong simply because she knew how to fight. She was strong because viewers could always feel that behind those eyes was a heavy past, a wound that was not easy to name. The strange thing is that when Cote left NCIS, Ziva only became bigger in fans' memories. Her departure did not feel like a character being written out and slowly forgotten. Instead, that empty space made people miss her even more. Fans remembered the way Ziva walked into a room with a calmness that almost felt dangerous. They remembered her relationship with Tony, that years-long connection that was half teasing, half serious, half close, half distant, and never fully explained. And the less she appeared, the more Ziva became like a beautiful ghost in NCIS history, gone from the screen, but never gone from the audience's memory. In real life, Cote also did not choose to cling to the spotlight at any cost. After leaving the series, she became more private, appeared more selectively, and did not turn Ziva into a shadow she had to keep chasing forever. That silence was exactly what made her different. Today, at 46, Cote de Pablo is no longer the new face who first entered NCIS with that sharp, icy stare. She is older, calmer, and when she returned with NCIS, Tony, and Ziva, that comeback was not just fan service. It felt like an old memory finally being opened again. Ziva once disappeared, but that disappearance is exactly what turned her into a legend. And by leaving, then returning at the right moment, Cote proved that sometimes, the longer a character is gone, the stronger their hold becomes. Number 5. Sasha Alexander. Sasha Alexander did not stay on NCIS as long as many of the other familiar faces. But that short run is exactly what made Kate Todd such a special memory. In the early seasons, Kate was the kind of character who gave Gibbs' team a sense of balance. Smart, sharp, a little stubborn, but still very human. She did not enter the series as a ready-made icon. She grew on audiences through her back and forth with Tony, her tension with Gibbs, and the feeling that she was the most normal person in a world full of pressure and danger. Then NCIS did something viewers at the time almost never saw coming. It killed Kate just as fans had truly started to connect with her. The scene where she was shot at the end of Season 2 was not just a twist. It felt like a statement that this series was not as safe as people thought. A main character could disappear in just a few seconds, and the space left behind would not be easy to fill. The strange thing is that Sasha left the show early, but Kate was never forgotten. If anything, that death made her stay in fans' memories even longer, like the first real wound that made NCIS grow up and become darker. In real life, Sasha's story was not about a loud scandal or a dramatic fall after fame. Instead, she left NCIS to find a more sustainable rhythm, then proved she was more than just the woman who died in Season 2. After that, she had a very successful chapter with Rizzoli and Isles, building a more mature, steadier image, and later moved into directing as well. Today, at 52, Sasha is no longer the young face remembered only for a shocking on-screen death. She lives more privately, more steadily, with a family and children, and chooses projects in a calmer way than the demanding machine of long-running television. What makes Sasha's story memorable is that she did not need to stay long to become an important part of NCIS. Kate Todd was killed off too soon, but that is exactly why she never truly left the series. Number 6. David McCallum. How many actors have moved through 2 different eras of television and still made audiences remember them for their kindness and quiet grace the way David McCallum did? Before becoming Ducky on NCIS, he was already a standout face of the 1960s with The Man from UNCLE, the kind of classic, elegant star audiences loved. But when he stepped into NCIS, David did not try to recapture his old glory. He let Ducky live in his own way, knowledgeable, warm, a little eccentric, almost like the quiet grandfather who kept the most human part of the show alive in a cold world of investigations. David's life did not come with the kind of loud Hollywood scandal the media loves to exaggerate. But that does not mean he moved through it without pain. His first marriage to Jill Ireland ended after she fell in love with Charles Bronson, a story that drew attention because all 3 were familiar faces from old Hollywood. Years later, he suffered an even deeper loss when his son Jason died of an overdose. David rarely turned any of it into something for the press to feed on. He simply kept working, lived privately, and carried himself with a calm dignity until the very end. In 2023, David McCallum passed away at the age of 90, closing a career that had stretched across generations. For NCIS fans, it was not just losing Ducky. It felt like one of the gentlest, kindest, most old-fashioned parts of the series had quietly gone with him. Number 7. Sean Murray. Sean Murray is the kind of actor who does not need a major scandal to still have a story worth looking back on. When Timothy McGee first appeared on NCIS, he was just the probie, a slightly awkward young agent who was great with computers but short on confidence, often teased by Tony, and always seeming like he was trying to prove he was good enough to stand on Gibbs's team. But season by season, McGee grew up almost right in front of the audience. From a shy rookie, he slowly became one of the most steady faces in the entire series. What makes it special is that while so many NCIS icons eventually left, Sean stayed. Gibbs stepped away from the center, Abby disappeared, Tony and Ziva moved into another chapter, but McGee was still there, almost like the one holding on to the memory of the early seasons. Today, at 48, Sean Murray is still connected to NCIS, but in real life, he has also gone through a major change after his nearly 20-year marriage to Carrie Murray ended in divorce. Number 8. Brian Dietzen. Brian Dietzen was not the kind of actor who stepped into NCIS and immediately took over the spotlight. When Jimmy Palmer first appeared, he was almost just a background face in the autopsy room, standing beside Ducky, polite, a little awkward, and feeling like a small character brought in to soften the heavy atmosphere of all those cases. But over time, Jimmy became a truly important part of the series. He did not draw people in with mystery or authority. He made audiences care about him through his kindness, sincerity, and the way he managed to stay gentle in a job that constantly forced him to face death. In real life, Brian has never had a loud scandal either. What makes his story worth noticing is his resilience. He went through a stroke and heart surgery, but still returned to work, continued his long run with NCIS, and even became involved in writing for the series. Today, at 48, Brian is no longer just Ducky's assistant standing in the background like he was in the beginning. He has become one of the faces keeping the emotional heart of NCIS alive after so many of the old icons have left. If NCIS was part of your memories too, hit like, subscribe, and stay with us as we look back at the stars time changed forever.